Hello everyone, my name is Artem Fedyurin. I'm a senior product manager at Amazon, and today I'll be talking about how to prioritize roadmap based on data. But before we jump into roadmap prioritization, let's talk about what roadmap is and its goals. First of all, roadmap is a communication tool that helps align stakeholders around the common goal. So if you have multiple stakeholders, customers, clients, roadmap helps them understand what you're working on and what your end goal is. Second, it helps to set direction of the product development in accordance with the org goals. It should be closely tied to the vision and the goals of the organization. Uh, and as the result, it shouldn't be rigid, it should be flexible. It should rally around org priorities and can change based on the changing org priorities. And roadmap should never be set in stone, and it should change as needed. And last but not the least, it should get customers excited, which means if you have customer support, uh, this support eventually will translate into a faster product adoption. So roadmap should get customers excited. Next, let's talk about roadmap dependency on the product type. So there are different types of products, and depending on what type of product you have, your product roadmap will vary. So growth versus volume. As you know, all products go through a product life cycle. In the beginning, when the product is in a growth stage, the roadmap should focus on growing the user base, growing adoption, etc. So think about a social app. In the beginning, any social app focuses on features to increase the customer base. And as the app becomes bigger, they start focusing on monetization and increasing value to shareholders. The second type of product is B2B versus B2C. So B2B is business to business. And an example of B2B product could be a CRM app by Salesforce, for example. In those cases, the product manager prioritizes the roadmap based on the use cases of a smaller set of larger clients who are companies, other businesses. That's why it's B2B. And B2C is a business to consumer. So an example of B2C is Netflix or Google Maps, something that you use as a consumer every day. And for B2C products, there is a much larger customer base. So think about Facebook. It has billions of customers. And the roadmap should focus on customer groups or cohorts, customer cohorts with similar goals or similar needs. The third type of products could be internal versus external. So internal products are products that are built inside the organizations. So as companies grow, they might need internal products. For example, many large tech companies have their own products for HR, for accounting, for operations. So those products would have a smaller user base and might focus on things like process automation and optimization or efficiency improvement. And external products, these are products built for external customers and organizations and focus on driving revenue and increasing usage and engagement. Often all of these three product types can overlap, and as the companies grow, the companies change, they move from one category to another. And for example, in the beginning, Facebook was purely growth, B2C, external product. However, as the company grew, they became a value product, focusing not only on B2C, but also on B2B segment. And additionally, the Facebook app is used internally for internal communication, document sharing, etc. So it has both internal and external elements. So as you can see, Facebook spans across all of these three categories. The next question is, where do feature ideas come from? And there are plenty of sources, and depending on the product type described earlier, the sources might include the following. Could be a PM vision, also how the PM thinks about the product, how he envisions the product should work in the future. Second is customer requests. This could be done through feedback mechanisms built into the app, or it could be done through feedback provided by customers if it's a B2B product directly to the development team or to the product manager. Partner requests, often used by B2B teams and internal products. Sales requests. So sales requests would be an example where you have a team of salespeople. They call different partners trying to sell your product, and some of those partners or customers can provide feedback. So that would be a sales request feedback. Customer support requests, when customer call your support team or customer support team complaining about something not working or wishing to have additional functionality, that's where you get the customer support requests and ideas from customer support. Competitor features, if your competitor is building something, you might also consider adding it to your roadmap. And the leadership requests, ideally they should align with the product vision, but also can include more strategic requests in organizations that have more than one product. Okay, now let's talk about what is roadmap prioritization and why it matters. We've talked about different types of products and roadmaps, and now it's time to start talking about the prioritization. Prioritization is done by a product manager and is needed to define which features to build and which ones not to build. And interestingly enough, the most difficult part is oftentimes to say no to features, because many features might have value to a customer, but the value might be different. And that's where prioritization comes into the game. Product manager needs to decide which features to build, which features to keep in the backlog, and which features not to build. And within those features that PM decides to build, the product manager needs to decide which features to build first and which features can be built last. Now, let's talk about why prioritization matters. Well, first of all, it's because of limited resources. Every organization has limited resources. Even companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, you name it, they all have limited resources because of the very large number of ideas that all these companies have. And so this means that development hours are limited. So limited resources in case of tech products is limited development hours. And it becomes very important to optimize the return on the resources that the work invests on. Second, different features have different value to customers. So some features are crucial for the product adoption, while other features are just nice to have features. And third, given the limited resources and different value to customers, products that have better prioritized features will get a better traction with customers and can get a competitive advantage if they release more important features earlier to the market. Now let's talk about the prioritization frameworks that are used by product managers in tech companies. And today I'll cover some of them. There are simple and more sophisticated prioritization frameworks that exist in the industry. And I'll talk about some of them, not all of them. By no means this is an exhaustive list of frameworks, and this list should give you a good understanding of how features can be prioritized, and then you can use them, adjust them for your needs as needed. Okay, the first framework I'm going to talk about, which is a relatively simple framework called MASCO. MASCO is an abbreviation of feature categories that are used to describe the relative value of a feature to the user. So the categories include the following: must have, should have, could have, and won't have. You can see the first letters of those categories form the word MASCO. And using this prioritization, the PM collects feedback from users, partners, sales, etc., on about the relative value of all features on the roadmap and decides which features to put in which category buckets. And usually an MVP will be released with all the must-have features, and should-have features would be released as a fast follow to the must-have features. And could-have features might be released later in the product life cycle, and won't-have features will not be developed. So for example, here is an example of a prioritization for an internet video service. So imagine you're working on a product, something like Netflix, and you might have the following features in your backlog. So first would be watch movies. So customers should be able to watch movies on your video player, and then customers should be able to search movies in your app. Customers want to be able to rank movies, and customers want to have multiple profiles. So how do you prioritize these features using the Moscow framework? Well, you would put them in the different buckets. So watch movies is probably must have. So you cannot release a video service without functionality enabling users to watch movies. The same is true about search movies. So if you have Netflix and you cannot search movies, it's not a great experience. You will have to scroll through thousands of movies to find something to watch. So rank movies, on the other side, it's more optional for MVP or minimum viable product at least. And you can put it in the should have or maybe even could have category. And then the ability to create multiple profiles, not very crucial for the first version of the product. So you could put it in the could have category. So you can see based on this prioritization, you'll assign priorities depending on which buckets these movies belong to. Again, this is very simple, pretty subjective framework and usually used for fast prioritization. Next one is a little bit more sophisticated prioritization framework called desirability, feasibility, and viability. So desirability criteria is meant to answer, do customers want this feature, and do competitor products have or competitors building this feature. And so this is a customer focused criteria that you want to take into account when prioritizing features on your roadmap. Next one is feasibility. So feasibility criteria helps answer questions like, can we build this feature? Do we have technical expertise to build this feature? And it's a company-focused feature. Third one is viability, and it focuses on a business side of the feature and is meant to answer questions like, can we make money of this feature, or will it generate the desired outcome for us? And this is a business-focused criteria. And using this framework, product manager assigns each feature on the roadmap scores for desirability, feasibility, and viability, and uses the sum of the scores to rank the features. So you can see these three overlapping circles in a Venn diagram, and ideally your product should be somewhere in the middle on the intersection of all of these three circles. Then it means it meets all the criteria for desirability, viability, and feasibility. So for example, as a product manager for a music service, for example, Spotify or Pandora or something like this, you could use this framework to prioritize features on your roadmap. So for example, let's say you have three features that you want to prioritize. First one is search songs, second one is shuffle songs, and third one is see all artists' albums. And for search songs, you can say that it's very desirable by customers. Again, having Spotify without search would be not an ideal experience. In terms of feasibility, you can say it's also 3 on a scale 0 to 3. For example, you can say it's also 3 because our team is building Spotify, so presumably we should have engineers who can build the search functionality because it's not something unusual these days. And so viability is also 3 because if our competitors have this feature and we don't, probably we can lose customers to the competitor. So if we build this feature, we'll have more customers. So it's good for business. And so by adding all these three scores for desirability, feasibility, and viability, you get the priority score. So in this case, your priority score is 9. You go through the same exercise for shuffle songs, see all artist albums, and you get the sum of 8 and 7, and that's how you rank the features. So search songs will be ranked the highest, then goes shuffle songs, and the third is see all artist albums feature. Now we can move to the next one. So ROI, return on investment. Probably many of you have heard about this one. And using this framework, a product manager needs to assign the return and investment value to each feature on the roadmap. So return is a revenue or other kind of benefit. Return could be revenue for external products, but also could be time savings, for example, cost reduction for internal products if the product is focused on process automation. And investment in this case is development resources, which include the cost of developer working on the feature and also any additional services that might be required for this feature, for example, additional cloud computing services. So using this feature, product manager assigns dollar values to each feature, and dollar values for return and dollar values for investment. For example, you could use this same prioritization framework to rank the features for internet music service such as Spotify. So for example, you want to prioritize features on the roadmap and you have a feature search songs. So how do you estimate the revenue, dollar value for the revenue? Well, you can do either financial modeling, focus on, for example, increasing number of paying customers thanks to the new feature. So if you can estimate how many new customers you can get from building this new feature and how much revenue you can generate per customer per year, then you can calculate projected annual revenue. In some cases, you might want to use some statistical analysis such as conjoint analysis, which is based on the customer survey, and it assigns different values to different features based on the customer willingness to pay. Whichever method you use, you assign the projected revenue to your feature. Then you estimate the dev effort, and you assign the dollar value to that too by just multiplying the number of dev hours needed to build this feature by the cost of an hour, a dev hour in your company. And then you add any other costs associated with building this feature. Again, this could be cloud computing service, for example, or new servers, or any additional equipment needed to build this feature, etc. And to calculate ROI, you simply take the projected revenue and divide it by the sum of all your costs. And in this case, for example, the ROI for search songs will be 200,000 over 60,000 in cost minus 1. And that gives you the ROI of 233%. And you do the same calculation for other features on your roadmap, for shuffling songs, for see all artist albums, and depending on the ROI, you rank them. So you can see that using this prioritization framework, search songs will be ranked the highest, see all artist albums will be ranked the second, and shuffle songs will be ranked the third. And a variation of a classic ROI formula is an ROI scorecard. So this is an alternative to ROI model based on dollar values. And here, using this framework, you estimate relative value of the benefits and the relative value of a cost of all features. So benefits are tied to the company goals, and relative value is assigned depending on how the particular feature will impact the goal. And the numbers can be both positive and negative. And so negative numbers would mean that the feature negatively impacts the goal. For example, consider a grocery delivery startup like Instacart. So for those of you who don't know what Instacart is, Instacart, it's a delivery startup. It doesn't own its stores, but instead offers grocery delivery from other grocery chains such as Costco, Safeway, etc. And so as a product manager on Instacart, you could use this prioritization framework to prioritize these three features. So features would be offer 2-hour delivery, uh, add wish list, and add items after placing an order. Let's say you want your customers want to be able to add more items after they've placed their first order to the cart. So how would you run the prioritization in this case? First you create a columns for your goals, for what your company or for what your organization wants to drive. So let's say in this case your goals include increasing number of customers, increasing average check, and increasing profit. And so your cost will be def effort. So let's consider an example of offering 2-hour delivery. So let's say we build this feature to our delivery. Most probably the number of customers will go up because anyone would love this feature. However, as you build this feature, customers will be willing to place orders more often because now they don't need to build a bigger cart. They can place an order. It will be at their door in 2 hours. So it requires less planning on the customer side. So most probably the average check will go down, and that's why you might want to put -2 in this case, which means it will negatively impact your average check goal. And the same is true for profit, because once you build this to our delivery feature, there will be a smaller check per delivery, which means your cost per delivery will be higher relative to your revenue per delivery, which means your total profit will go down. Essentially, your cost will increase as you'll need to do more deliveries because customers will start ordering more often, but the revenue might stay the same and not grow with the number of deliveries. So that's why you would put negative number for profit. And your def effort, it should be pretty easy to add this functionality to your app. Um, and then you calculate the score by just summing up all the benefits and dividing it by the def effort. So in the case of offer 2-hour delivery, it will be 5 -2 which gives you 1. 1 over 1 scores you 1. So you can go through the same exercise for wish list and add items after placing an order. So for example, add items after placing an order. Again, this feature might be very desired by customers. It will probably increase average check because the customers will tend to add more items once they've created a basket. So, let's say I've added 5 items to my basket, and then I realize that I need milk or I need sugar. I can go and add it without waiting for the next delivery, etc. So most probably every check will go up. Because of that, profit might go up as well. It could be a little bit more difficult to build than 2-hour delivery. So I put 3 here. And now it gives me the score of 2.7. Again, it's 3 plus 3 plus 2, which gives you 8. 8 over 3 is 2.7. And you do the same for the wish list, and you rank the features based on the total score. So this is, again, this is a more sophisticated way to compare features on your roadmap, and it's called ROI scorecard. Okay, so I've covered some of the main prioritization frameworks that are common in the tech industry today, and different PMs might have different variations of these frameworks, but hopefully this presentation gave you a good understanding of how roadmaps are used, how features are collected by PMs, and how different prioritization frameworks are used to prioritize features. And good luck in your product management careers, and thank you for your time.